Think about the last time you drove down a highway or walked along a cobbled street. Chances are you didn't give much thought to the ground beneath your feet. But what if I told you that some of those very roads were built by the ancient Romans over 2,000 years ago? These aren't just crumbling relics hidden in museums or archaeological sites. They're living, functioning pieces of history, still carrying cars, carts, and footsteps today. Picture this: the same stones that once bore the weight of legionnaires' sandals, the wheels of imperial chariots, and the footsteps of emperors are now part of your daily commute or your weekend getaway. It's almost mind-bending to realize that the roads we take for granted are, in some cases, the very same ones that connected an empire stretching from the deserts of North Africa to the misty highlands of Scotland. So how did these roads survive when so many modern ones seem to crack and crumble after just a few decades? The answer lies in the sheer brilliance of Roman engineering, a blend of precision, innovation, and an almost obsessive attention to durability. The Romans didn't just build roads, they built them to last for eternity. They dug deep foundations, layered materials like crushed stone and mortar with surgical precision, and even designed cambered surfaces to drain rainwater. These weren't just paths, they were masterpieces of infrastructure designed to withstand the weight of armies, the wear of centuries, and the relentless march of time. And yet, here they are, still serving us today, some hidden in plain sight, others proudly bearing the marks of their ancient origins. But the story of these roads isn't just about engineering. It's about the people who walked them, the empires they connected, and the legacy they left behind. Every mile of these enduring pathways whispers secrets of the past, tales of conquest, trade, and everyday life in a world long gone. Over the next few minutes, we'll take you on a journey across 39 of these astonishing Roman roads still in use today. From the sun-baked highways of Italy to the forgotten trails etched into the English countryside, you'll discover how these ancient marvels shaped history and how they continue to shape our world. By the time we're done, you'll never look at a road the same way again. So let's step back in time and walk in the footsteps of giants. The past is closer than you think. The sheer scale of Roman road building still boggles the mind today. Imagine a network stretching over 250,000 miles, enough to circle the Earth 10 times. But these weren't just random trails scratched into the dirt. Each was a carefully engineered lifeline, binding together an empire of 50 million people across 3 continents. What made them revolutionary wasn't just their length, but their design. The Romans approached road construction with the same precision they applied to aqueducts and amphitheaters. They started by digging trenches nearly 5 feet deep, then layered crushed stone, gravel, and sand like a giant stone sandwich. The top layer often used interlocking volcanic rock or local stone slabs, angled slightly outward so rainwater would drain away instead of pooling. This wasn't just craftsmanship, it was obsession. These roads became the empire's circulatory system. Military couriers could race from Rome to the English Channel in just 25 days, unheard of speed for the ancient world. Merchants transported olive oil from Spain, silk from China, and spices from India along these same highways. And because every major road led back to Rome, the phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," wasn't just poetic, it was geographical fact. The roads even had their own ancient version of mile markers called Millennia, helping travelers gauge distances, but perhaps their most lasting innovation was their stubborn straightness. Roman engineers would blast through hills and bridge rivers rather than detour, creating arrow-straight paths that still define many modern routes today. What's truly astonishing is how these roads transcended their original purpose. They weren't just military supply lines or trade routes, they became conduits for culture, language, and ideas. Latin inscriptions on roadside altars, the spread of Roman baths and temples, even the movement of gladiators and actors all flowed along these stone rivers. When you walk on a surviving Roman road today, you're not just stepping on stones, you're tracing the grooves of Western civilization itself. The next time you're stuck in traffic on what seems like an ordinary street, look down. You might be rolling over the same pavement where Caesar's messengers once sprinted, where medieval pilgrims trudged toward Jerusalem, or where Renaissance merchants hauled their wares. History isn't always locked away in museums, sometimes it's right beneath our tires. Now let's journey to Italy's legendary Appian Way, the crown jewel of Roman engineering. Built in 312 BC, this wasn't just a road, it was a statement of power, stretching over 350 miles from Rome to the port city of Brindisi. Picture legions marching south to conquer, merchants hauling silks and spices from the east, and even the echoes of Spartacus's doomed rebellion, where 6,000 crucified slaves once lined its edges as a grim warning. Today, stretches near Rome still gleam with their original volcanic basalt stones, polished smooth by 2 millennia of footsteps, cartwheels, and time itself. What made the Appian Way so indestructible? The Romans didn't cut corners. They dug down nearly 5 feet, layering crushed stone and lime mortar into a rock-solid foundation, then capped it with those iconic interlocking stones. The result, a surface so durable that modern asphalt roads crumble in comparison. But here's the twist, this road wasn't just about brute strength. Its gentle curves and slight crown allowed rainwater to run off, preventing erosion. Even the grooves worn by ancient chariot wheels are still visible today, a ghostly imprint of history you can literally run your fingers over. Walking the Appian Way today feels like stepping into a time machine. Cypress trees lean over its edges, their roots tangled with ancient tombs of wealthy Romans who wanted to be buried along this prestigious route. You'll pass the circus of Maxentius, where chariots once raced, and the tomb of Cecilia Metella, a noblewoman whose mausoleum has stood untouched for 2,000 years. It's humbling to realize that the same stones under your feet once bore the weight of Caesar's ambitions, the sandals of early Christians fleeing persecution, and the boots of countless pilgrims. And here's something extraordinary: the Appian Way still serves its original purpose. Locals bike its length, tourists stroll its storied path, and on Sundays it closes to cars, transforming back into the pedestrian highway it once was. That's the magic of Roman engineering. They built not for their lifetime, but for eternity. As we leave Italy's sun-drenched plains, our next stop takes us to the misty hills of England, where another Roman marvel hides in plain sight. Crossing the English Channel from Rome's sun-soaked streets, we arrive at Watling Street, a road that didn't just connect places, but reshaped an entire island's destiny. Stretching from the white cliffs of Dover all the way to the rugged Welsh coast, this wasn't merely a path for carts and soldiers. It became the backbone of Roman Britain, a highway of conquest that would one day evolve into the modern A2 and A5 motorways. Picture the irony: the same route that once echoed with the tramp of legionnaires' boots now rumbles with delivery trucks and family cars, a testament to how thoroughly Rome's engineering still dictates our daily lives. What's staggering about Watling Street isn't just its endurance, but its precision. Roman surveyors plotted this path with near-magical accuracy, using simple tools like grommers and chorobates to align it arrow-straight across hills and valleys. Modern engineers, armed with satellites and lasers, found their original route so efficient that they barely deviated from it. That's right when you're stuck in traffic on the A5 near London. you're essentially driving over a 2,000-year-old blueprint. But the real magic lies off the beaten track. Venture into the countryside near St. Albans or Towcester, and you'll find untouched stretches of Watling Street, their gravelly surface still intact beneath a carpet of grass. Walking these secluded sections feels like eavesdropping on history. Here, in 43 AD, the Roman general Plautius marched his legions to crush Celtic resistance. Centuries later, Boudicca's rebel army scorched the earth along this very route in her doomed revolt against Rome. Even Chaucer's pilgrims trod this path on their way to Canterbury, their stories immortalized in the Canterbury Tales. And then there's the phrase we all know, off the beaten track. Guess where it comes from? Watling Street's well-worn central lane, flanked by quieter side paths, literally gave us the expression. Romans designed their roads with multiple lanes, and sticking to the busier central route was safer but less adventurous. Today, that linguistic relic reminds us how deeply these roads seeped into culture, language, and even our way of thinking about exploration. So next time you're navigating Britain's motorways, remember, you're not just following modern traffic signs. You're retracing the footsteps of emperors, rebels, and medieval travelers, all drawn to the same unshakable path. And speaking of unforgettable routes, our next stop takes us to a road so legendary, its name became synonymous with destiny itself. Now we turn to the Via Flaminia, one of Rome's most audacious projects, a road that didn't just connect cities but defied mountains. Built in 220 BC, this was the empire's lifeline to the Adriatic, stretching 180 miles from Rome to Ermine. And here's the astonishing part. Drive Italy's modern Strada Statale 3 today, and you're essentially retracing the exact path Roman engineers carved through the Apennines over 2 millennia ago. That's not poetic exaggeration. Original bridges like the Pont Milvio, where Constantine famously saw his vision of the cross, still carried daily traffic. Tunnels bored by Roman hands still funnel cars through rock faces. It's as if time folded in on itself, leaving these structures untouched by the centuries. What makes the Via Flaminia extraordinary isn't just its endurance, but its sheer stubbornness. Roman surveyors looked at the jagged Apennine Mountains, a natural barrier that would make modern road planners shudder, and said, straight through. They didn't zigzag up slopes or take gentle detours. They chiseled, blasted, and bridged their way in near-perfect lines, proving geography was merely a suggestion. The Furlough Pass Tunnel, completed under Emperor Vespasian in 76 AD, remains one of the oldest operational tunnels in the world. Walk through it today, and you'll see tool marks left by enslaved laborers, ghostly scratches that whisper of the human cost behind Rome's engineering triumphs. Yet the Via Flaminia wasn't just a feat of brute force. Every curve served a purpose. The road's gentle inclines were calculated for marching legions hauling heavy gear. Its drainage ditches, still visible along rural stretches, prevented flooding during autumn storms. Even the spacing of way stations where officials changed horses reveals Rome's obsession with efficiency. Modern highway rest areas, they're just echoes of the ancient mutations that dotted this route. Today, driving the Via Flaminia feels like flipping through a living history book. One moment you're passing 3rd century tombs near Otricoli, their frescoes faded but still vibrant. The next, you're crossing the Nera River on a bridge that supported everything from ox carts to Fiats. Stop in the hilltop town of Spoleto, and you'll find Roman arches woven seamlessly into medieval piazzas, proof that great design never goes out of style. And here's the real marvel, this road still does its original job. Farmers haul olives to market along its time-worn stones. Tourists pedal bicycles past temples repurposed as churches. The Via Flaminia isn't a relic behind glass, it's a working artery. pulsing with life just as it did when Hannibal's elephants were the biggest traffic hazard. As we leave Italy's sunlit valleys, our next stop takes us into the frosty shadows of the Alps, where another Roman road clings stubbornly to the mountainsides. The Via Domitia wasn't just a road, it was a revolution in stone, the first Roman highway to stitch Gaul into the empire's sprawling tapestry. Laid down in 118 BC, this engineering marvel didn't merely cross southern France. It tamed it, transforming muddy Celtic trails into a disciplined ribbon of crushed stone that now lies beneath modern routes like the N85 and N7. Picture the audacity: Roman engineers, armed with little more than bronze tools and sheer determination, plotting a path from the snow-capped Alps to the sun-baked Pyrenees, bridging rivers and flattening hills with a precision that still leaves modern road planners in awe. What set the Via Domitia apart wasn't just its ambition, but its ingenuity. Those clever cambered surfaces, slightly arched like a turtle's shell, weren't just for show. They turned rainwater into a fleeting visitor, channeling it swiftly into drainage ditches before it could weaken the roadbed. 2,000 years later, that simple trick is why stretches near Montpellier still feel solid underfoot, their original layers intact beneath a skin of modern asphalt. And then there are the milestones, silent sentinels of history. Near the town of Narbonne, ancient pillars still stand, their Latin inscriptions declaring distances in Roman numerals, as crisp today as when they were chiseled under the reign of Emperor Augustus. But the Via Domitia's true legacy isn't just in stone, it's in the cities it birthed. Every few miles, Roman way stations blossomed into bustling hubs. Take Nimes, once a humble rest stop, it grew into a metropolis crowned by the iconic Mason Carré temple, its streets still following the original Roman grid. Or Narbonne, where the Via Domitia's bones now lie beneath the Place de l'Hôtel de Ville, its medieval arcades resting atop Roman foundations like layers of a time-worn cake. Even the names tell a story. Modern highway signs still echo Latin roots, with Narbonne derived from Narbo Martius, Rome's first colony in Gaul. Walk the quieter stretches near Beaucaire, and you'll find something extraordinary. Ruts worn into the stone by countless wagon wheels, each groove a fossilized moment of ancient commerce. This was the Silk Road of the West, where Spanish silver, Gallic wool, and Italian wine flowed in an unending stream. Legionnaires marched here to quell rebellions, while merchants haggled over prices in a babel of languages. The Via Domitia didn't just move people, it moved cultures, religions, and ideas, turning Gaul from a conquered territory into the beating heart of Roman Europe. And here's the twist: this road's genius wasn't just in surviving, but in evolving. Medieval pilgrims followed its path to Santiago de Compostela. Napoleon's armies marched its length to invade Spain. Today, cyclists pedal past vineyards that owe their existence to Roman settlers who first brought grapevines along this very route. The Via Domitia proves that great infrastructure never dies. It simply reinvents itself century after century. As we leave France's sunlit plains, our journey takes us to a road that conquered a far harsher landscape, the desert trails of North Africa, where Roman engineers faced their greatest challenge yet leaving the familiar landscapes of Europe behind. We arrive at one of Rome's most audacious engineering feats, the Via Trayonanova, a road that didn't just cross the Arabian desert but conquered it. Imagine the challenge: blistering heat, shifting sands, and no natural water sources for miles. Yet Emperor Trajan's engineers carved a lifeline through this unforgiving terrain, stretching from the Syrian frontier all the way to the Red Sea. Today, if you drive Jordan's modern desert highway, you're essentially retracing the footsteps of Roman legions, their sandals replaced by tires, their marching pace by the hum of engines. What's astonishing isn't just the road's existence, but how it defied the desert's wrath. While modern asphalt buckles under extreme heat, sections of the Via Trayonanova still reveal original curbstones, precisely aligned slabs of local basalt that have weathered sandstorms and scorching sun for nearly 2,000 years. The secret: Roman engineers didn't fight the desert, they worked with it. They built shallow foundations to avoid sinking into soft sand, used dark stone to absorb minimal heat, and even designed subtle slopes to let rare rainwater drain away before it could erode the surface. This wasn't just construction, it was a dialogue with nature, but the road's true genius lay in its purpose. Unlike Europe's bustling trade routes, the Via Trayonanova was a strategic artery, linking military outposts like Petra and Bostra. Watchtowers still dot its path, their crumbling stones hinting at the empire's reach into Arabia's heart. Stop at a roadside well near modern Amman, and you might find Roman masonry beneath the sand, proof of the ingenious systems that sustained travelers in this parched land. Even the milestones tell stories, their Latin inscriptions now weathered but still legible, marking distances not in miles but in Roman lughi, a Celtic unit adopted for local use. And here's the twist: this road didn't just serve Rome. Long after the empire fell, it became a pilgrimage route for early Christians heading to Mount Nebo, then a caravan trail for Islamic traders carrying spices to Damascus. The Via Trayonanova outlived its builders, adapting to every era like a chameleon of stone. Today, Bedouin herders guide their flocks along its forgotten stretches, their goats nibbling at times sprouting between ancient paving stones, a quiet testament to how infrastructure can transcend its original purpose. As we leave the desert's shimmering haze, our journey takes us back to Europe, to a road wrapped in legend. The next stretch of our exploration winds through the misty forests of Germany, where the Via Claudia Augusta doesn't just connect places, it bridges myth and history. The Via Aurelia wasn't just a road, it was Rome's glittering escape route to the sea, a coastal masterpiece that still traces Italy's western edge like a stone ribbon. Built in 241 BC under the watch of Consul Gaius Aurelius Cotta, this was the empire's vacation highway, linking the capital to the sun-drenched Riviera and beyond. Today, as Italy's modern Strada Statale 1, it carries travelers past the same breathtaking cliffs and turquoise coves that once tempted Roman aristocrats to build their seaside villas. But beneath the postcard views lies an engineering secret: those weathered blocks of local volcanic stone, chosen not just for their durability but for their natural grip, preventing chariot wheels from skidding on steep coastal curves. What makes the Via Aurelia extraordinary isn't just its longevity, but its layered history. For centuries, this route was a double-edged sword, a lifeline for trade and a magnet for pirates. Imagine merchant ships hugging the shoreline, their cargoes of Spanish olive oil and Gallic wine tempting Cilician raiders who lurked in hidden coves. The Romans responded with watchtowers and fortified way stations, ruins of which still dot the landscape near modern-day Livorno. These weren't just rest stops, they were medieval motels with security, offering fresh horses and armed escorts to nervous travelers. For a taste of the Via Aurelia in its purest form, detour onto the Via Aurelia Antiquar near Rome. Here, the modern world falls away, replaced by a tunnel of umbrella pines shading original paving stones worn smooth by generations of sandals, hooves, and wagon wheels. Walk this quiet stretch at dusk, and you'll pass tombs inscribed with names like Lucius Aurelius Felix, ordinary Romans who lived and died along this road, their memorials now sun-bleached but still legible. Nearby, the ruins of ancient bath complexes whisper of weary travelers soaking sore muscles after a long journey, just as tourists unwind in spa towns like Terme di Saturnia today. But the Via Aurelia's greatest trick was its adaptability. When the empire crumbled, this road didn't fade into obscurity. Medieval monks repurposed its milestones as boundary markers. Renaissance artists sketched its crumbling arches for inspiration. Even Napoleon marched his troops along its length during his Italian campaigns. Today, it's a time capsule disguised as a scenic drive, where modern gas stations sit cheek by jowl with second-century bridges, and roadside trattorias serve pasta atop foundations laid when Carthage still threatened Rome. As we leave the Mediterranean's shimmering horizon, our journey takes us north to a road that bore witness to Rome's twilight. The final stretch of our exploration leads to the Via Postumia, a highway that didn't just connect cities. It carried the weight of an empire's collapse. The Via Ignatia was more than a road. It was Rome's iron grip on the Balkans, a 500-mile spine of stone that bound the empire's eastern territories together. Built in the 2nd century BC, this wasn't just a path for legions. It was a cultural fuse, igniting connections between Rome and Byzantium, Venice and Constantinople. Today, if you drive the E90 highway from Albania's rugged coast to Turkey's border, you're essentially retracing the grooves of history, where original Roman paving stones still emerge like secrets through cracks in modern asphalt. What set the Via Ignatia apart wasn't just its length, but its defiance of geography. Roman engineers faced a nightmare of swamps, mountains, and sheer cliffs, yet they carved a near-straight line across the Balkans. In Thessaloniki, archaeologists uncovered sections where the original basalt blocks, worn smooth by 2 millennia of traffic, still support bustling city streets. The grooves from chariot wheels are so precise you can almost hear the clatter of hooves echoing through time. And those aren't just aesthetic details, they're proof of Rome's meticulous craftsmanship. The road's gentle crown and subsurface drainage channels kept it functional through torrential rains and winter snows, a design so effective that modern engineers copied it verbatim. But the Via Ignatia's true legacy lies in the empires it outlived. Crusader armies marched its length toward Jerusalem, their chainmail clinking over the same stones Roman merchants once trod. Ottoman conquerors widened it for their supply caravans, adding caravanserais that still stand as crumbling way stations. Even in World War II, Nazi tanks rumbled over its ancient foundations, oblivious to the layers of history beneath their treads. This road didn't just witness history, it absorbed it, each conqueror leaving their mark like pages in a stone ledger. Walk the quieter stretches near Lake Ohrid, and you'll find something haunting. Original milestones, their Latin inscriptions still legible, marking distances to long-vanished cities. One reads Dyrrhachium, the Roman name for modern Durrës, a port that once buzzed with grain shipments to feed the empire. Nearby, the ruins of a Roman bridge crouch over a stream, its arches so perfectly engineered that locals still use it for foot traffic. That's the genius of the Via Ignatia. It wasn't built for glory, but for utility. Every curve, every stone served a purpose, and that's why it endured. Now, the road's most treacherous challenge awaits, a stretch so inhospitable even Rome hesitated. Beyond the Balkans lay the dreaded Pontine marshes, a mosquito-infested quagmire where standing water could swallow entire armies. Yet when nature said impossible, Roman engineers replied with their greatest flex, the Via Appia's marsh-defying sister. The Via Papilia was Rome's answer to an impossible landscape, a road that didn't just cross the treacherous Po Valley but conquered its swamps. Picture engineers standing knee-deep in brackish water, staring at a quagmire that swallowed carts whole. Their solution, a masterpiece of elevation and drainage, building the road like a stone causeway atop thousands of oak pilings driven deep into the unstable ground. Today, as you cruise Italy's modern SS309 highway, you're riding atop that very same raised foundation, a 2,000-year-old innovation that still keeps travelers dry in one of Europe's most waterlogged regions. What made the Via Papilia revolutionary wasn't just its height, but its hidden network of drainage ditches, an ancient precursor to modern hydrology. These flanking channels transformed the road into a kind of stone spine, with water flowing harmlessly away instead of pooling beneath the surface. Sections near Ravenna still reveal original brick culverts, their arches so precisely engineered that they've outlasted countless modern drainage systems. And then there are the bridges. The Pont di Pietra near Adria isn't just a relic, it's a working piece of infrastructure. It's Roman-era stones supporting delivery trucks and scooters as effortlessly as they once bore ox carts. But perhaps the most astonishing legacy of the Via Papilia is how its techniques echo through time. Those oak pilings, the same method was resurrected centuries later to stabilize Venice's foundations. The layered gravel subbase, modern engineers still use variations of it for highways built on soft soil. Even the road's gentle curve, designed to follow the valley's natural drainage, shows up in contemporary flood-resistant infrastructure. This wasn't just a road, it was a textbook written in stone, one we're still learning from today. Walk the quiet stretches near Comacchio, and you'll find something hauntingly beautiful. Fragments of the original pavement emerging from rice fields like stepping stones across time. The grooves worn by ancient wagon wheels are still visible, their parallel lines telling silent stories of salt traders and legionnaires. Nearby, a medieval watchtower stands on Roman foundations, its bricks repurposed from way stations that once dotted the route. The Via Papilia didn't just endure, it became part of the valley's DNA, shaping everything from property lines to modern irrigation canals. Now prepare to leave the waterlogged lowlands behind. Our next journey takes us skyward to a road that didn't just climb mountains, it defied them. The Via Claudia Augusta stands as one of Rome's most audacious engineering triumphs, a road that didn't just cross the Alps but tamed them. Picture this, a world without tunnels or heavy machinery, where engineers faced sheer rock faces, avalanches, and freezing temperatures. Yet, by the 1st century AD, they carved a path so precise that modern Alpine highways still follow its course. Today, if you drive from Italy's Adige Valley into Germany's Bavarian foothills, you're tracing the same route Roman surveyors plotted with nothing but simple tools and sheer determination. What's even more astonishing, original stretches near Bolzano still bear the marks of Roman chisels, their switchbacks and retaining walls so well built that they've outlasted empires. This wasn't just a road, it was a lifeline. Before the Via Claudia Augusta, crossing the Alps meant treacherous goat trails and unpredictable river fords. Rome's solution, a disciplined ribbon of crushed stone, reinforced with local granite and anchored by dry stone walls that defied landslides. The genius lay in the details, gentle gradients for laden pack animals, strategic rest stops where travelers could swap exhausted horses, and drainage channels to prevent ice damage. Even the curves were calculated, each switchback designed to minimize erosion while offering weary travelers glimpses of the valleys below. Modern engineers marvel at how these techniques anticipate contemporary road design, proving that good ideas never go out of style. But the Via Claudia Augusta's true magic lies in how it transformed the Alps from a barrier into a bridge. Suddenly, olive oil from Italy flowed north to Germanic tribes, while amber and fir traveled south to Roman markets. The road became a cultural melting pot, where Latin met Germanic dialects and Alpine traditions blended with Mediterranean tastes. Today, cycling the Via Claudia Augusta bike path feels like rolling through a living museum. You'll pass Roman milestones near Murano, their inscriptions still legible, and medieval villages built atop Roman way stations. Stop for strudel in a Tyrolean cafe, and you might be sitting on foundations laid by legionnaires. And here's the twist: this road's legacy isn't just in stone, but in the rhythms of daily life. The Alpine passes it established still dictate trade routes and tourism flows. The villages it nourished, like Fusen in Germany or Trento in Italy, owe their existence to the commerce this path unlocked. Even the concept of Alpine tourism traces back to Roman elites who ventured north for air cures in the mountains. The Via Claudia Augusta didn't just connect places, it shaped identities, turning isolated valleys into crossroads of civilization. Now we turn from the icy heights of the Alps to a road that powered an empire's heartbeat. The Via Salaria, where salt, the white gold of antiquity, fueled Rome's rise from humble beginnings to unparalleled dominance. The Via Ostians might not have been Rome's longest road, but pound for pound, it was one of its most crucial, a bustling artery that kept the empire's heart beating. Stretching just 16 miles from Rome's city gates to the thriving port of Ostia, this was where the empire's wealth flowed in and out. Egyptian grain, Spanish olive oil, North African marble, and Syrian silk all traveled this short but mighty route. Today, as you navigate Rome's modern Via Ostians with its scooters and coffee kiosks, you're rolling over the same path that once echoed with the shouts of dockworkers and the creak of overloaded carts. What set this road apart wasn't just its traffic, but its ingenious design. Ostia sat in a floodplain, so Roman engineers built the Via Ostians like a stone spine, raised slightly above the surrounding marshes, with a core of hydraulic concrete that could shrug off seasonal floods. That same concrete, a mix of volcanic ash and lime, still lurks beneath the asphalt today, untouched by 2,000 years of groundwater. Alongside the road, ruins whisper of its heyday. The massive warehouses of Ostia's docks, where goods were stored in labeled compartments like an ancient Amazon warehouse, and the Pyramid of Cestius, a tomb so striking it inspired poets from Shelley to Keats. But the Via Ostians' true magic lies in its layers of history. Medieval pilgrims used it to reach the port before sailing to the Holy Land. Renaissance artists scavenged its ancient bricks for new palaces. Even Mussolini left his mark, widening sections to showcase Rome's imperial past. Walk the quieter stretches near the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, and you'll find original paving stones flanked by umbrella pines, the same trees that shaded Roman travelers counting milestones to Ostia. And here's the twist: this road's legacy isn't frozen in time. The modern Via Ostian still thrums with commerce, just as it did when Ostia fed a city of 1 million people. Trucks rumble past 3rd century warehouses repurposed as trendy bars. Commuters bike over bridges that once carried legionnaires. The past and present don't just coexist here, they're woven together, stitch by stone stitch. Now we turn from Rome's lifeline to the sea, to a road that became a path to the divine, the Via Francaigena. Where faith and footsteps intertwined across centuries, the Via Francaigena began as just another Roman highway. But over centuries, it transformed into something far greater, a sacred ribbon connecting the soul of medieval Europe. Originally built to move troops and goods between Rome and the northern reaches of the empire, this ancient road found new life as the ultimate pilgrimage route, guiding the faithful from Canterbury to the Vatican's doorstep. Today, modern travelers can still walk stretches where the original Roman paving peeks through the earth, especially in Tuscany's Val d'Orcia, where time seems to pause. Here, the Ponte Rigo stands as a silent sentinel, its arches worn smooth by the sandals of countless pilgrims, merchants, and soldiers, each generation leaving its mark without erasing those that came before. What's remarkable about the Via Francaigena isn't just its endurance, but its evolution. Roman engineers laid the foundation with their trademark precision: deep gravel beds, cambered surfaces for drainage, and those unmistakable straightaways defying the landscape's curves. But medieval monks and local lords adapted it, adding way stations, chapels, and even stretches of cobblestone to ease the journey for footsore pilgrims. In Lucca, you can still see the original Roman roadbed beneath the medieval Piazza San Michele, its stones polished by centuries of shuffling feet. The road didn't just survive the fall of Rome, it thrived, becoming a living parchment where each era wrote its own story. Walk the Via Francaigena today, and you'll witness a tapestry of history. Near Siena, the route winds past fortified farmhouses that once offered shelter to travelers fleeing bandits. In the foggy Apennines, medieval taverns still serve hearty ribollita soup, a dish that would have warmed Roman laborers and Renaissance pilgrims alike. Even the modern signage nods to tradition. The iconic yellow tau symbol, representing a pilgrim's staff, now guides hikers just as roadside shrines once did. This road doesn't just connect places, it connects ages, proving that infrastructure, when built with vision, can outlast the civilizations that created it. And here's the twist: the Via Francaigena's revival isn't just about nostalgia. UNESCO recognition has sparked a renaissance, with villages along the route restoring fountains and hostels, much like their ancestors did. Cyclists now share the path with pilgrims, and agriturismi offer organic wine tastings in the shadow of Roman mile markers, the road's latest chapter. A slow travel movement proving that the old ways still have wisdom to offer our hurried world. Now we leave the pilgrim's path for a road that didn't just connect cities, it forged a nation's identity. Ermine Street wasn't just a road, it was Rome's iron grip on Britain, a ruthless slash of stone and strategy cutting straight from London to York. Picture this: engineers facing a landscape of fens and bogs where one wrong step could swallow a wagon whole. Their solution: causeways, not mere dirt paths, but elevated ribbons of crushed flint and gravel, raised like the spine of some sleeping giant. Today, as modern drivers zip along the A10 and A15, they're unwittingly tracing the same raised berms that kept Roman supply trains dry 2,000 years ago. Near Lincoln, farmers still uncover original stretches, layers of compacted chalk, and clay so sturdy they've shrugged off centuries of plows and frost. What made Ermine Street extraordinary wasn't just its durability, but its military precision. This was no scenic route, it was a dagger aimed at Britain's rebellious north. Every curve avoided Celtic strongholds, every straightaway allowed rapid troop movements. The Romans didn't just build roads, they built control. Marching camps like Longthorpe and Ancaster sprouted along its length, their rectangular outlines still visible from the air. Even the name whispers of conquest. Ermine likely derives from the Germanic tribe Rome crushed to secure this corridor. Yet for all its martial intent, Ermine Street became a lifeline of commerce and culture. Medieval wool traders followed its path to London's markets. Chaucer's pilgrims trod its stones en route to Canterbury. And in a delicious twist of history, the same road that carried legions to subdue Britain later ferried Viking invaders south during the Dark Ages. Layers upon layers, each era leaving its mark without erasing the last. Walk the quiet stretches near Godmanchester and you'll find ghosts in the gravel. Original Roman culverts still funnel spring water beneath fields. The faint grooves of chariot wheels linger in exposed stones, their parallel lines a silent testament to the road's unbroken service. Even the modern A15's notorious straightness near Peterborough, that's not contemporary planning, it's Roman stubbornness, their engineers refusing to detour even for minor hills. Now we leave Britain's misty fens for a road that faced a far fiercer adversary. not marshland, but the fury of volcanoes. The next stretch of our journey takes us to Italy's shadowed slopes, where the Via Appia's sister road survived eruptions, earthquakes, and the weight of empires. The Via Consolare in Pompeii is more than a road. It's a time capsule frozen in a single catastrophic moment. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, this bustling thoroughfare was buried under 30 feet of scorching ash, preserving it with eerie perfection. Walk its length today and you'll see grooves worn by chariot wheels, their precise spacing matching the standard Roman axle width. The raised stepping stones aren't just quaint relics, they were ancient crosswalks, allowing pedestrians to navigate flooded streets without soaking their sandals. Even the basalt pavement tells a story. Unlike modern asphalt that cracks under heat, these volcanic stones show almost no wear after centuries of use, a testament to Roman material science. But what truly brings the Via Consolare to life are the small, human details. Scratches on curbstones mark where merchants sharpened their knives. Graffiti near a tavern boasts of gladiator victories, while another scrawled message laments a lost love. The road's surface even preserves ruts from heavy carts hauling volcanic tuff for construction, proof that Pompeii was a city at work until the very end. Stand at the crossroads where the Via Consolare meets the Via del Terme, and you're standing where a baker named Modestus once collapsed during the eruption, his body later cast in plaster from the void he left in the ash. This road doesn't just connect places, it connects us to real people, their routines preserved like insects in amber. Now, shift your gaze from these ash-sealed stones to a road that faced an entirely different challenge, not volcanic fury, but the relentless push of water. The next stretch of our journey leads to one of Rome's most audacious river crossings, where engineering met nature in a battle of wills. Pont Milvio isn't just a bridge, it's a silent witness to the moment Rome's fate turned on the edge of a sword. Stretching across the Tiber River, this ancient crossing carries the Via Flaminia's traffic just as it did when its first stones were laid in 206 BC. Though its arches have been rebuilt over the centuries, the original piers still stand beneath the water, their volcanic tough foundations defying 2 millennia of floods and wars. But what makes this bridge unforgettable isn't just its engineering, it's the history that unfolded here. Picture the scene in 312 AD, Emperor Constantine's army charging across these very stones to face his rival Maxentius, the clash of steel echoing over the river. According to legend, the night before the battle, Constantine saw a vision of the Christian cross in the sky with the words, "In this sign, conquer." Whether divine intervention or brilliant propaganda, the victory at Pont Milvio didn't just decide an empire, it paved the way for Christianity's rise to dominance in the Roman world. Walk across Pont Milvio today, and you'll find layers of history stacked like the bridge's own stones. Medieval towers loom at either end, added when popes fortified the crossing against invaders. The iron lampposts, those witnessed Garibaldi's troops marching to unite Italy in the 19th century. Even the modern tradition of lovers attaching padlocks to the railings later, removed to preserve the structure, echoes ancient rituals of binding oaths to sacred places. But perhaps the most striking detail is how unchanged the Tiber's curve remains here. The river's flow, the bridge's alignment, even the distant silhouette of Rome's hills, all mirror what Constantine saw on that fateful October morning. Now the Via Flaminia continues north, but our journey takes a turn toward a road that didn't just connect places, it divided them. The next stretch of our exploration leads to Hadrian's Wall, where a Roman highway became the razor's edge between empire and wilderness. The Limes Germanicus wasn't just a road, it was Rome's defiant line in the sand against the wilderness, a bristling frontier where empire met the unknown. Stretching over 300 miles from the Rhine to the Danube, This wasn't merely a path for carts and messengers. It was a psychological barrier, studded with wooden watchtowers every 1,000 paces and fortified camps like Solberg, where legionnaires shivered through Germanic winters. Today, as you drive Germany's Bundesstraße 49, you're tracing the exact spine of that ancient tension where the hum of modern traffic replaces the creak of patrol wagons and the distant howls of wolves beyond the palisade. What made this road extraordinary wasn't just its military might, but its dual nature. For every soldier who glared north toward barbarian forests, there were traders slipping through gates to barter Roman glass for amber and furs. The Limes was both sword and marketplace, its checkpoints buzzing with deals as much as drills. UNESCO-protected sections near Taunus reveal this contradiction perfectly. The ruins of a bathhouse stand just paces from a defensive ditch, proving even frontier troops insisted on their steaming hot pools and olive oil massages. That's the Roman way conquest with comforts. Walk the preserved stretches near Osterberken, and you'll feel the road's layered history beneath your feet. Original gravel still crunches underfoot, mixed with pottery shards and rusted nails from long-gone way stations. The watchtowers, now reconstructed, once offered sightlines so precise modern border guards still marvel at their placement. But the real surprise, how quickly wilderness reclaims the Limes when left alone. In the dense forests of the Swabian Alb, the road's berms now hide under moss and ferns, their straight lines visible only from the air, a ghostly reminder that nature always wins in the end. Yet the Limes Germanicus's greatest legacy might be what it taught us about borders. Unlike China's static Great Wall, Rome's frontier was permeable, a filter rather than a dam. Germanic tribes enlisted as auxiliaries, learned Latin, and eventually became the empire's heirs. The road that once divided Europe became its cultural blender, proving that even the mightiest barriers can't stop the flow of ideas. Now we turn from Rome's fraying edge to a road that witnessed its heart stopping the Via Appia in its final, twilight years, where cobbles once trod by conquerors felt the shuffling feet of refugees fleeing a collapsing world. The Via Augusta didn't just cross Spain, it stitched together an entire peninsula, transforming a patchwork of warring tribes into the beating heart of Roman Hispania. Stretching 1,500 kilometers from the Pyrenees to the Strait of Gibraltar, this was Rome's longest road outside Italy, a stone backbone that still shapes Spain's modern landscape. Drive the N340 highway today, and you're essentially retracing the grooves of history. Near Tarragona, original milestones stand like silent sentinels, their Latin inscriptions still legible, marking distances to cities that vanished centuries ago. But what's truly astonishing isn't just the road's length, it's how it became a cultural blender, melting Iberian, Celtic, and Roman traditions into something entirely new. Take a detour through modern Andalusia, and you'll find the Via Augusta's fingerprints everywhere, the whitewashed villages clinging to hillsides, their layouts mirror Roman military camps. The olive groves that stretch to the horizon, they owe their existence to settlers who followed this very road, bringing saplings from Italy. Even Spain's linguistic diversity traces back to this route. Latin evolved differently along its length, seeding the regional dialects that flourish today. The Via Augusta didn't just move armies and goods, it moved ideas, religions, and ways of life, leaving a legacy far deeper than stone. For a glimpse of the road in its purest form, head to the Ebro Delta. Here, away from modern development, original stretches reveal the Roman secret to longevity. A layered sandwich of compacted gravel, crushed brick, and local limestone topped with volcanic basalt slabs. These materials weren't chosen at random, each played a role in durability. The basalt's natural grip prevented wheel slippage, while the brick fragments acted like ancient concrete, hardening over time. Modern engineers have found sections where the original roadbed survives intact beneath medieval cobblestones, a testament to construction so precise it defies the centuries. But the Via Augusta's true genius lay in its adaptability. When Rome fell, the road didn't fade into obscurity. Visigoth kings used it to patrol their realm. Moorish conquerors paved over sections with distinctive geometric patterns, their arches and tilework still visible in Cordoba's old town. Later, medieval merchants hauled saffron and silk along its length, their caravans stopping at inns that now house boutique hotels. This road wasn't just built for an empire, it was built for the ages, evolving with each new chapter of history. Now we leave Spain's sun-baked plains for a road that faced a far fiercer adversary, not distance, but the wrath of the earth itself. The next stretch of our journey climbs the slopes of Italy's most infamous volcano, where the Via Pompeii Nova proves that even fire and ash couldn't erase Rome's engineering triumphs. The Via dei Vulcani wasn't just a road, it was Rome's daredevil dance with one of Earth's most unpredictable forces. Picture engineers staring up at Mount Etna's smoking cone, its slopes scarred by fresh lava flows, and deciding, we're building here anyway. This audacious route along Sicily's eastern flank didn't just skirt danger. It threaded through valleys still warm from eruptions, its heat-resistant basalt blocks literally forged in the fires it was designed to withstand. Today, near Zaffarana Etnia, you can stand on sections where the pavement buckles like a frozen wave, not from age, but from the moment molten rock lapped at its edges before cooling into jagged black sculptures. That's the Via dei Vulcani's eerie beauty. It's a road that wears its battles with nature like medals. What made this route revolutionary wasn't just its bravery, but its science. Roman builders sourced basalt directly from Etna's earlier eruptions, selecting stones rich in olivine and pyrrhozine minerals naturally resistant to heat. They layered these over a bed of volcanic ash, which acted as insulation against the ground's residual warmth. Modern engineers studying the road found something astonishing. The Romans had even designed expansion gaps between stones, allowing the pavement to flex during minor earthquakes without cracking. These weren't just builders, they were volcanologists centuries before the term existed. The road's legacy lies in unexpected ways. When Etna erupted in 1669, lava engulfed the village of Malpaso, but diverted around a fortified section of the Via dei Vulcani, its raised berm acting like a natural dam. Today, that same feature protects modern highways built in its shadow. Walk the surviving stretches near Nicolosi, and you'll see grooves worn by ancient carts cutting through patches of lava-cord, ropey lava formations that hardened around the road like a frame. It's a stark reminder that Rome didn't conquer nature, they cooperated with it, turning volcanic fury into a construction partner. Now, shift your gaze from these fire-tempered stones to a road that fueled not just travel, but the Renaissance itself. The next stretch of our journey winds through Tuscany, where the Via Cassia didn't just connect cities, it carried the very ideas that reshaped the Western world. The Via Cassia didn't just connect Rome to Tuscany, it became the canvas for an artistic revolution. Winding through rolling hills and past vineyards that look like they've been lifted from a Renaissance painting, this road's curves weren't accidents of engineering but deliberate acts of harmony. Unlike the arrow-straight military highways of the north, the Via Cassia embraced the land's natural contours, its gentle arcs framing vistas so stunning they inspired Botticelli and Leonardo da Vinci. Today, as you drive Tuscany's Strada Regionale 2, you're essentially tracing the same route that carried pigments from Sienna's mines to Florence's workshops, where they'd be transformed into masterpieces like the birth of Venus. What sets this road apart isn't just its beauty, but its dialogue with the landscape. Roman engineers designed the Via Appia to complement, not conquer, the terrain. The slight elevation near San Gimignano, for example, wasn't flattened but used to create a natural viewpoint, revealing the Val d'Orcia's patchwork of fields and olive groves. Even the iconic cypress alleys lining the road served a purpose. Their roots stabilized the soil, while their towering forms acted as natural mile markers for travelers. Modern geologists have found sections where the original pavement mirrors the underlying limestone strata, proving the Romans worked with the earth's bones rather than against them. For a taste of the Via Appia's living history, stop at the Romanesque Abbey of Sant'Antimo. Here, the road's original basalt blocks form the courtyard, their surface worn smooth by medieval pilgrims who paused to pray before continuing to Rome. Nearby, Etruscan tombs pepper the hillsides, their trapezoidal doorways echoing the road's timeless role as a conduit between worlds. It's no coincidence that Tuscan light, so beloved by painters, feels almost supernatural along this route. The Via Appia's alignment catches the sun at angles that turn ordinary fields into gold. Now we turn from a road that fed the soul to one that fed a metropolis. The next stretch of our journey leads to the Via Campana, where salt, the currency of survival, flowed into ancient Rome's hungry heart. The Via Campana might not have been Rome's most glamorous road, but it was arguably one of its most vital, a gritty workhorse that kept the empire's heart beating. Stretching just 20 miles from the salt pans of Ostia to the bustling markets of Rome, this unassuming path carried the white gold of antiquity. Salt, a mineral so precious it funded legions, preserved food, and even gave us the word salary. Today, near the ruins of Ostia Antiqua, hikers can still tread its original basalt flagstones, worn smooth by the sandals of countless laborers hauling baskets of crystalline treasure to the capital. What's remarkable isn't just the road's survival, but its simplicity. No grand arches or elaborate drainage here. The Via Campana was built for one job, and it did it brilliantly, a no-frills conveyor belt for a commodity that powered an empire. Walk this route at dawn, and you'll understand its quiet genius. The stones are spaced just far enough apart to allow mule carts to roll smoothly, yet close enough to prevent hoof slips. Grooves along the edges channeled rainwater away from precious salt loads, while slight cambering kept puddles from forming. Modern engineers have found sections where the roadbed mixes crushed seashells with volcanic ash, a frugal recipe that hardened into near concrete over centuries. Even the road's path reveals practicality. It hugs the Tiber's curve, avoiding steep grades that might slow laden animals. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was logistics perfected. But the Via Campana's true legacy lies in its ordinariness. While emperors boasted of triumphal highways, this humble track fed Rome's insatiable appetite. Salt from its route seasoned legionnaires' bread, preserved fish bound for Pompeii's garum factories, and even filled the coffers of tax collectors. The road's existence reminds us that empires aren't built on marble alone. They're sustained by the unsung workhorses of daily life. Now we leave the salt-stained stones of Ostia for a road that faced the opposite extreme, not the fertile Tiber Valley, but the scorching emptiness of the Sahara. The next stretch of our journey follows the Via Tripolitana, where Roman engineers tackled a challenge far fiercer than mud or floods, the relentless, waterless expanse of the desert. The Via Maris wasn't just a road, it was a shimmering mirage turned reality, threading through deserts where even water seemed to hesitate. Stretching from the Nile Delta to the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, this ancient highway defied the harshest landscapes with a resilience that still baffles modern engineers. Today, as trucks thunder down Israel's Highway 4, They're unknowingly retracing the exact path where Egyptian chariots once rolled and camel caravans groaned under spices and silks. What's astonishing isn't just the road's survival, but how it thrived in a region where summer temperatures could melt lead and winter flash floods could erase lesser paths overnight. Roman engineers didn't just build the Via Maris, they outsmarted the desert itself. Instead of fighting the arid climate, they harnessed it. The roadbed mixed local gravel with crushed pottery shards, a clever trick to absorb minimal heat while allowing rare rains to drain swiftly. Watchtowers doubled as water collection points, their sloped roofs channeling dew into cisterns, an ancient version of today's fog nets. Even the spacing of caravanserais reveals genius. These roadside inns stood precisely one day's camel ride apart, their thick mud brick walls offering cool refuge from the blistering sun. Modern archaeologists at Tel Megiddo uncovered one such rest stop, its stables still bearing scratches from impatient hooves, its courtyard oven blackened by countless meals for weary travelers. But the Via Maris' true power lay in its role as a cultural conveyor belt. This was where Egyptian papyrus met Mesopotamian cuneiform, where Phoenician glassmakers traded secrets with Hittite metalworkers. The road's legacy lingers in unexpected places like the modern Arabic word for market, souk, derived from the Aramaic term for the bustling stalls that once lined this route. Even biblical history unfolded along its length. Jacob's flight to Haran, the Exodus' possible path, and Jesus' childhood journey to Egypt all likely followed this ancient corridor. Walk the quieter stretches near Ashkelon, and you'll find ghosts in the gravel. Faint ruts worn by Assyrian siege engines still groove the bedrock, while Ottoman-era milestones lean drunkenly beside modern fiber optic cables. The Via Maris doesn't just connect places, it connects epochs, proving that even in the face of shifting empires and scorching sands, some paths refuse to fade. Now we turn from this desert survivor to a road that became something far greater than stone, a symbol etched so deeply into history that its name alone evokes conquest, pilgrimage, and the relentless march of civilizations. The Via Sacra wasn't just a road. It was the beating heart of Rome's destiny, a stage where history unfolded in real time. Picture this: emperors in gilded chariots rolling toward the temple of Jupiter, their faces smeared with red ochre to mimic the gods as crowds roared below. Captured kings shuffled in chains, their defeat etched into the same basalt stones that today support the sandals of tourists and the tripods of Instagram photographers. Those grooves you can still trace with your fingertips. They're not just wear and tear, they're the literal tracks of triumph, worn deep by centuries of victory parades and sacred processions. What makes the Via Sacra extraordinary isn't just its fame, but its layers of reinvention. Start at the Arch of Titus, where the road's original volcanic blocks bear scorch marks from the sack of Rome in 410 AD. Walk toward the Curia, and you'll step over medieval cobbles salvaged from ruined temples. Even the Renaissance left its mark. Artists like Michelangelo sketched the road's columns for inspiration, while looters pried marbles from its edges to build palaces elsewhere. This stretch of stone has been a parade route, a marketplace, a quarry, and now an open-air museum, each era leaving its scars and splendor. But the Via Sacra's true power lies in its intimacy with power. Stand near the Temple of Julius Caesar at sunset, and you're standing where Mark Antony delivered history's most explosive funeral oration, sparking riots that changed an empire. The same stones once felt the weight of Augustus's sandals as he transformed Rome from brick to marble, and centuries later, the tread of Napoleon's boots when he dreamed of reviving an empire of his own. It's a road that doesn't just connect places, it connects moments, each footstep a bridge between millennia. Now shift your gaze from this celebrated path to one that faced a far grimier challenge. The next stretch of our journey descends into the Pontine marshes, where the Via Appia didn't just conquer distance, it wrestled with nature itself, turning lethal swamps into a lifeline of stone. The Via Appia Traiana wasn't just a detour, it was Rome's audacious rewrite of geography itself. When the original Appian Way's coastal route proved too slow for military traffic, Emperor Trajan ordered a radical shortcut, a diagonal slash through Apulia's treacherous marshes, shaving off days of travel time. Today, as you speed down Italy's SS-16 highway near Canosa di Puglia, your wheels glide over the ghost of that ancient innovation where Roman engineers turned quicksand into a stone ribbon. The secret, a masterclass in wetland construction. Instead of fighting the bog, they embraced it, building the road like a floating spine raised on wooden pilings sunk deep into the muck, with layers of crushed brick and lime mortar forming a waterproof shell. Modern engineers drilling beneath the SS-16 have found those original oak stilts, still intact after 2 millennia, preserved by the very water that should have rotted them away. What makes this road extraordinary isn't just its survival, but its hidden hydrology. The Via Appia Traiana functioned like a giant sponge, with side ditches channeling marsh water into cleverly placed cisterns that doubled as drinking reservoirs for travelers. Near Barletta, archaeologists uncovered a stretch where the original camber, that slight upward curve, still directs rainwater off the pavement exactly as designed. Even the materials tell a story of adaptation. The gravel mix includes crushed oyster shells, a local waste product that neutralized the marsh's acidity, preventing roadbed erosion. This wasn't just engineering, it was alchemy, turning environmental liabilities into structural assets. Walk the quieter sections near Trani at dusk, and you'll feel the road's dual legacy underfoot. The original basalt blocks, polished to a sheen by centuries of traffic, now share space with modern asphalt. Medieval pilgrims carved crosses into the stones, while fascist-era laborers embedded fasci symbols, each generation leaving its mark without erasing the past. Even the roadside ostery owe their existence to this route, their wine cellars built into repurposed Roman way stations. The Via Appia Traiana didn't just conquer the marshes, it tamed them so thoroughly that today's drivers barely notice the engineering marvel beneath their tires. Now, we leave these watery landscapes for a road that faced the opposite challenge, not soggy lowlands, but the dizzying heights of mountain passes. The next stretch of our journey climbs into the clouds, where the Via Claudia Augusta didn't just cross the Alps, it bent them to Rome's will. The Via Militaris wasn't just a road, it was the iron hinge between two worlds, swinging open the gates between Europe and Byzantium for over 1,500 years. Picture this, a stone artery stretching 450 miles from Belgrade to Constantinople, its surface worn smooth by the sandals of Roman legions, the hooves of Ottoman cavalry, and the wheels of Crusader supply carts. Today, as trucks thunder down the modern E75 highway, they're retracing the exact path where empires clashed and cultures melded. What's astonishing isn't just the road's endurance, but how it transformed rest stops designed for weary legionnaires into today's neon-lit gas stations. Near Sofia, archaeologists found a 2nd-century mansio, a Roman roadside inn with its original hypocaust heating system, intact beneath a 21st-century convenience store. The past isn't buried here, it's merely paved over, whispering through the cracks in the asphalt. This route's genius lay in its adaptability. When Rome fell, the Via Militaris didn't fade, it evolved. Byzantine emperors widened it to accommodate silk-laden caravans from the east. Medieval kings repurposed its milestones as boundary markers. Even the Ottomans, masters of their own infrastructure, kept the road's bones intact, adding caravanserais that still stand as crumbling way stations. Walk the quieter stretches near Nish, and you'll find grooves in the bedrock so deep they seem sculpted by time itself. These aren't just wagon ruts, they're the fingerprints of history, left by everything from Trajan's siege engines to the refugee caravans of the Balkan Wars. But the Via Militaris' true legacy is cultural alchemy. This was where Latin met Greek, where Christian pilgrims traded stories with Muslim merchants, where Slavic and Turkic tongues blended into new dialects. The road didn't just move armies, it moved ideas, recipes, and even faiths. Today, that legacy lives on in the roadside taverns serving kebab beside schnitzel, or the Orthodox monasteries with Arabic graffiti scratched into their walls. The Via Militaris proves that roads aren't just about destinations, they're about connections, bending but never breaking under the weight of centuries. Now we turn from this melting pot of empires to a road that faced a far different threat, not the clash of civilizations, but the cutthroat world of pirates. The next stretch of our journey leads to the Via Appia, where Roman engineers didn't just build a coastal highway. They outsmarted the corsairs who lurked in every cove. The Via Severiana wasn't just a scenic coastal route, it was Rome's high-speed response to one of antiquity's most persistent threats, pirates. Stretching 120 miles from Ostia to Terracina, this road hugged the Tyrrhenian coastline like a stone lifeline, allowing messengers and troops to outmaneuver seaborne raiders who plagued Italy's shores. Today, as you drive the modern SS-148 near Torre Estera, you're cruising over the very pavement where Roman galleys once unloaded grain under the watchful eyes of fortified towers. Those crumbling ruins dotting the landscape, they're not just picturesque, they were part of an elaborate early warning system. Signal fires could relay messages from watchtower to watchtower faster than any pirate ship could sail, turning the entire coastline into a guarded corridor. What set this road apart was its ruthless efficiency. Unlike winding mountain passes or meandering rural lanes, the Via Severiana was built for speed. Its surface used compacted volcanic ash mixed with crushed seashells, a formula that hardened into a near-concrete surface, perfect for chariots carrying naval dispatches. The roadbed was deliberately raised just enough to stay above storm surges but low enough to avoid becoming a target. And those frequent way stations weren't just rest stops, they doubled as armories where reserve troops could intercept raiders before they reached wealthy inland villas. Modern archaeologists have uncovered lead sling bullets stamped with fleet insignia near these sites, proof that the Via Severiana wasn't just a road, it was a border patrol. For a glimpse of its original urgency, visit the Pontine marshes near Circio. Here, the road narrows dramatically, its basalt blocks grooved by chariot wheels in a telltale pattern, wider spacing on straightaways for speed, tighter turns near watchtowers for control. Nearby, the ruins of a Roman lighthouse stand sentinel over what was once a pirate hotspot. It's eerie to realize that the same stretch of road, now filled with beachgoers and cyclists, once echoed with the shouts of sailors repelling boarding parties. Now we leave this coastal battleground for a road that didn't just defend a territory, it defined an entire city's identity. The next stretch of our journey leads to the heart of Roman urban planning, where the Via Lotta didn't just connect neighborhoods, it became the spine of an eternal city. The Via Recta in Damascus isn't just a road, it's a time machine where biblical prophecy collides with Roman engineering and the pulse of modern life. Known as the Straight Street in the Book of Acts, this ancient thoroughfare has been a commercial heartbeat for over 2 millennia. Its stones worn smooth by the sandals of apostles, the hooves of caravan camels, and now the sneakers of shoppers haggling over spices in the bustling souk Medhat Pasha. What's astonishing isn't just its survival, but its seamless adaptation. The Roman engineers who laid its precise basalt slabs never could have imagined that their work would one day support the weight of refrigerated kebab trucks and neon-lit fabric stalls, yet here it is, a living testament to infrastructure that refuses to retire. Walk its length today, and you'll find layers of history stacked like a Middle Eastern mill fuel. Beneath the modern market's awnings, original Roman columns still frame shop entrances, their Corinthian capitals now draped with strings of saffron and dried apricots. The grooves in the pavement, those aren't from delivery vans, they're the same ruts left by iron-rimmed wagon wheels carrying silk from China and cedar from Lebanon's mountains. Even the road's famous straightness, praised in biblical accounts, reveals Roman ingenuity. Surveyors used the stars to align it perfectly east-west, ensuring merchants could navigate by sunlight long before compasses existed. But the Via Recta's true magic lies in its unchanging role as a crossroads of humanity. In Paul the Apostle's time, it linked the Nabatean kingdom with Mediterranean ports. During the Islamic Golden Age, it hummed with scholars trading medical texts and astronomical charts. Today, the scent of cardamom coffee and freshly baked cobs mingles with echoes of the past, as shopkeepers unfold their wares mere feet from where Roman tax collectors once tallied their coins. This road doesn't just connect places, it connects epochs, proving that commerce and community are forces even time can't erase. Now, shift your gaze from these sun-baked stones to a road that defied gravity itself. Our next journey takes us to the cliffs of Spain, where the Via Ferrata didn't just traverse mountains, it conquered them with a daring network of tunnels and ledges that would make modern engineers sweat. The Via Mala wasn't just a road, it was a daredevil's dance with gravity itself, where Roman engineers stared down a Swiss gorge so deep and narrow, sunlight barely touched its floor, and said, "We're building here anyway." Picture this, a canyon carved by the roaring Hinterine River, its cliffs towering like prison walls with no natural path through. The Romans didn't just tame this chaos, they turned it into a masterpiece of ingenuity. Using cantilevered wooden scaffolds anchored into the rock face and tunnels chiseled by hand, they created a ledge just wide enough for a mule cart, clinging to the cliff like a stone vine. Today, as cars zip through the A13's modern tunnels, they're following the ghost of that ancient audacity, often unaware they're threading the same needle first stitched by legionnaires in hobnailed sandals. What made the Via Mala revolutionary wasn't just its existence, but its hidden engineering. The Romans didn't have dynamite or hydraulic drills, so they worked with the gorge's brutal geometry. They built switchbacks into the rock, their angles calculated to distribute weight evenly and prevent collapses. The tunnels, they weren't just holes, they were carefully arched to withstand avalanches, their ceilings lined with heat-treated limestone to resist erosion from dripping water. Modern engineers studying the remnants near the Usis found tool marks suggesting workers used fire and vinegar to fracture stubborn rock, a trick later lost to history until medieval miners rediscovered it. But the Via Mala's true legacy lies in its influence. That same gorge, once a bottleneck feared by travelers, became a classroom for later pioneers. The Gotthard Tunnel's architects studied Roman techniques for handling Alpine pressure shifts, while modern cantilever bridges in the region still echo the Via Mala's balance of strength and flexibility. Walk the surviving sections near Zilis, and you'll see grooves worn into the stone, not from wagon wheels, but from ropes used to lower supplies to workers suspended over the abyss. It's a humbling reminder that Rome's greatest invention wasn't concrete or arches, but sheer stubbornness in the face of impossible terrain. Now we leave these vertigo-inducing heights for a road that faced the opposite challenge, not cliffs, but the endless, horizon-swallowing expanse of the sea. The next stretch of our journey leads to the Via Herculia, where Roman engineers didn't just hug the coastline, they conquered the very idea of distance, linking the Mediterranean shores with a road as unyielding as the waves themselves. The Via Appia wasn't just a road, it was Rome's lifeline between two worlds, stitching the Mediterranean's shimmering waters to the Atlantic's untamed horizons. Picture merchant ships unloading African ivory and Tyrian purple dye at Cadiz's bustling port, their precious cargoes transferred to wagons that would rumble north along this very route, bound for the empire's heart. Today, as trucks barrel down Spain's N340 highway near Tarifa, they're following grooves first worn by Celtic traders hauling Galician tin, a metal so vital for bronze that Rome was willing to conquer an entire peninsula to secure its supply. What's astonishing isn't just the road's endurance, but how its original purpose still echoes in modern commerce, those warehouses lining the route near Seville. They stand where Roman Horia once stockpiled olive oil in amphorae stamped with merchant seals, the ancient equivalent of today's barcodes. Walk the quieter stretches near Medina Sidonia, and the road's engineering genius becomes clear. Instead of fighting Andalusia's rugged terrain, Roman surveyors worked with it, using local sandstone slabs to create a surface that gripped wagon wheels on steep grades. The camber, that slight upward curve, is still visible in sections untouched by modern paving, designed to shed flash floods from sudden mountain storms. But the real marvel lies beneath, a layered foundation of crushed pottery mixed with lime mortar, an ancient recycling project that turned broken amphorae into unshakable roadbed. Modern engineers drilling core samples near Conil de la Frontera found these layers intact, their chemical bond strengthened rather than eroded by 2 millennia of groundwater. Yet the Via Appia true legacy isn't just in stone, but in the cultural alchemy it sparked. This was where Phoenician shipbuilding techniques met Roman engineering, where Iberian horsemanship blended with Celtic metalwork. The road's influence lingers in unexpected places like the Almadraba tuna nets still used off Cadiz, a method perfected by Roman fishermen who shipped their catch north along this route. Even Spain's famed Jamón Ibérico owes its existence to the Via Appia. The oak forests that feed the black-footed pigs were first cultivated to provide shade for travelers and fodder for their animals. Now we turn from this thriving trade corridor to a road that faced the opposite fate, not centuries of constant use, but near total abandonment. The next stretch of our journey leads to the Via Herculia, where nature's relentless reclaiming of stone meets Rome's stubborn refusal to be forgotten. The Via Emilia wasn't just a road, it was the invisible spine that held northern Italy together. A ribbon of stone so vital that modern highways still cling to its 2,000-year-old path. Built in 187 BC by consul Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, this arrow-straight marvel stretched 260 miles from Rimini's Adriatic shores to the foothills of the Alps, transforming the Po Valley from a swampy backwater into the empire's breadbasket. Today, as you drive the SS9 near Bologna, you're essentially rolling over the same foundation that once carried grain carts to hungry legions and marble slabs for imperial monuments. What's astonishing isn't just its endurance, but its camouflage. While some Roman roads flaunt their origins with dramatic ruins, the Via Emilia hides in plain sight, its bones buried beneath modern asphalt like a secret waiting to be rediscovered. Dig beneath the surface and the road's engineering genius comes to light. Near Modena, archaeologists uncovered a cross-section revealing the Romans' layered mastery, a foot-thick bed of crushed brick for drainage, topped with volcanic gravel mixed with lime mortar and finished with local sandstone slabs. This wasn't just sturdy, it was self-healing. The lime mixture would chemically react with rainwater over time, filling tiny cracks and strengthening the road with age. Modern engineers have even found sections where medieval cobblestones were pried up during roadworks, revealing pristine Roman pavement beneath, untouched by centuries of neglect. Yet the Via Aemilia's true drama lies in its afterlife. When Rome fell, the road didn't vanish, it was scavenged. Villagers stripped its stones to build churches and farmhouses, turning imperial infrastructure into humble hearths. In towns like Reggio Emilia, you can spot telltale Roman blocks in medieval walls, their telltale pockmarks from ancient chisels betraying their origins. But here's the twist: some stretches were too stubborn to die. Near Parma, a 2-mile section still serves as a rural lane, its original curbstones guiding tractors just as they once guided chariots. The grooves worn into these stones aren't from modern tires, but from iron-rimmed wagon wheels that rolled here when the Pantheon was still new. Now, we turn from this quiet survivor to a road that didn't just connect territories, it defined the edge of the known world. Beyond the Po Valley's orderly fields lay a frontier where Rome's power met the wilderness, and one audacious highway dared to bridge the divide. The Fosseway didn't just cut through Britain, it sliced the island in half with geometric precision, marking the razor's edge between Roman order and Celtic wilderness. Built around 47 AD, this arrow-straight marvel ran from Exeter in the southwest to Lincoln in the northeast, tracing the empire's temporary frontier like a stone seam stitched into the landscape. Today, if you drive England's A46 near Leicester or the B4455 through rural Warwickshire, you're cruising atop the ghost of that ancient boundary line. But glance sideways where the modern road veers, and you'll spot something astonishing: faint ridges cutting through farmers' fields like fossilized spines. These are the original aga, the raised foundations Roman engineers built to keep the road dry in Britain's soggy climate. Unlike today's pothole-plagued asphalt, these earthen berms, layered with crushed limestone and gravel, have outlasted entire dynasties. What made the Fosseway extraordinary wasn't just its engineering, but its psychological impact. To the east lay Roman towns with bathhouses and theaters. To the west, untamed hills where druids whispered in sacred groves. The road became a physical manifestation of civilization as Rome defined it, so potent that even after the frontier moved west, local tribes avoided settling near it, as if the stones themselves radiated imperial authority. Modern archaeologists have found Celtic villages deliberately built just beyond visual range of the Foss, their inhabitants trading with Romans but keeping their distance. The road didn't just connect places, it divided worlds. For a taste of its original grandeur, detour to Stretton-on-Foss in Gloucestershire. Here, the modern road peels away, revealing a lonely stretch of the original aga, now carpeted with grass but still unmistakable. A raised causeway marching relentlessly toward the horizon. Walk its length and you'll notice the subtle camber designed to shed rainwater and the occasional flint pebble that's worked its way up from the Roman-era subbase. It's humbling to realize this unassuming ridge once echoed with the tramp of legionnaires' boots, the creak of supply carts hauling Welsh lead to continental smelters, and the chatter of merchants trading Gaulish wine for Cornish tin. Yet the Fosseway's true genius lies in its adaptability. When Rome abandoned Britain in the 5th century, the road didn't fade into obscurity. Medieval pilgrims followed it to Canterbury. Saxon kings used its straightaways as ready-made boundaries for their kingdoms. Even today, its influence lingers in unexpected ways, like the property lines in rural Nottinghamshire that still hew to the Foss's alignment, or the way modern highways instinctively follow its path because, frankly, Rome's surveyors got the routing right the first time. This road wasn't just built for an empire, It was built for the ages, quietly shaping Britain's landscape long after the last Eagle standard vanished over the Channel. Now, we turn from this silent sentinel of empire to a road that didn't mark borders but fueled them, a lifeline of grain and garum that kept Rome's legions marching. The Via Appia wasn't just a road, it was Rome's ingenious solution to one of Italy's soggiest challenges, the relentless mud of the Veneto plains. Picture legions slogging through knee-deep muck, their supply wagons sinking axle-deep after every rainstorm. Roman engineers responded with a masterclass in adaptive construction, layering crushed gravel, river stones, and even broken pottery shards into a roadbed that drained like a sieve. Today, as you cruise along Italy's SR 309 near Padua, you're riding atop that very innovation, a 2,000-year-old drainage system still keeping modern tires dry. What set the Via Appia apart wasn't just its practicality, but its hidden genius. Unlike the rigid basalt pavements of Rome's grand highways, this road flexed with the waterlogged terrain. Archaeologists digging near Adria found its original strata, a bottom layer of oak logs to stabilize the swampy ground, topped with alternating sheets of coarse gravel and fine sand that filtered moisture downward. The result, a surface that stayed firm in winter floods yet resisted cracking in summer heat. Even the road's slight curve, mimicking the natural flow of the Po Delta's rivers, helped channel runoff away from the pavement. Modern engineers analyzing the SR 309's foundation were stunned to discover entire sections where the original Roman gravel mix outperformed 20th-century asphalt in durability tests. But the Via Appia's true legacy lies in its role as Venice's lifeline long before the city's canals were dug. When Attila the Hun rampaged through northern Italy in the 5th century, refugees fleeing to the lagoon's islands used this very road to escape. Centuries later, Venetian merchants hauled glass and spices along its length to mainland markets, their profits funding the Renaissance's artistic explosion. Walk the quieter stretches near Chioggia, and you'll find traces of that bustling trade, worn grooves from medieval salt carts, Renaissance-era inns built atop Roman way stations, even the occasional oyster shell pressed into the gravel, discarded by workers feasting on the lagoon's bounty. Now we turn from this unsung hero of infrastructure to a road that transcended stone and entered legend. A path where history and myth intertwine so completely, its very name evokes conquest, pilgrimage, and the birth of nations. The Via Herculia wasn't just a road, it was a Herculean feat of engineering, carving through Basilicotta's jagged mountains like a blade through stone. Named for the mythical hero who overcame impossible trials, this route lived up to its namesake, conquering terrain so rugged even medieval travelers avoided it. Today, as you navigate Italy's winding SS7, you're threading the same passes where Roman engineers once battled landslides and sheer cliffs. Look down at the right moment, and you'll spot original retaining walls, crude, mortarless stacks of local limestone that have outlasted empires. These weren't just functional, they were calculated. Each stone was angled slightly inward, creating a self-locking system that flexed with earthquakes rather than crumbling. Modern geologists recently discovered some walls have shifted less than an inch in 2,000 years, proof that Rome built not just for strength, but for symbiosis with the land. What makes the Via Herculia extraordinary isn't just its survival, but its stealth. Unlike the Appian Way's grand basalt pavements, this road often disguised itself in the landscape. Near Potenza, stretches of the original gravel surface still emerge beneath modern asphalt, its mix of volcanic sand and crushed brick forming a porous layer that shrugs off Basilicotta's torrential rains. The Romans didn't fight the mountains here, they tricked them. Bridges like Pont di San Vito, still carrying farm traffic today, were built with shallow arches to withstand seismic shocks, their foundations keyed into bedrock like teeth in a lock. Even the road's curves revealed genius. Instead of brute force straightaways, engineers followed natural ridgelines, creating grades gentle enough for ox carts but steep enough to drain flash floods. But the Via Herculea's true legacy lies in its role as a cultural smuggler. This was where Greek colonists' olive-growing techniques seeped into Roman agriculture, where Lucanian shepherds traded wool for Campanian wine. Stop at a roadside trattoria near Melfi, and you're dining on pepperoni cruscae, sun-dried peppers that trace back to Roman garrisons preserving harvests for winter. The road's influence lingers in dialect words borrowed from Oscan, the language spoken here before Rome's conquest. Unlike grand imperial highways, the Via Herculea wasn't about displaying power. It was about weaving a disparate land into a cohesive whole, stone by stone. Now we turn from this unsung workhorse of the Apennines to a road that didn't just connect regions, it fused continents. The next stretch of our journey leads to the Via Ignatia, where Europe and Asia met on a ribbon of stone that became the world's first truly international highway. The Via Diagonalis wasn't just a road. It was the steel thread that stitched Rome to Constantinople, a lifeline of empire stretching over 700 miles through the Balkan wilderness. Picture legions marching through Danube gorges, their hobnailed boots echoing off cliffs that still loom over modern Bulgaria's E80 highway. What's astonishing isn't just the road's endurance, but how it dictated the very shape of Eastern Europe. Roman surveyors didn't just pick a path. They designed a geopolitical blueprint. Every curve avoided Thracian strongholds. Every straightaway allowed rapid troop movements to crush rebellions. Today, when trucks rumble past the ruins of Serdica, modern Sofia, they're following the exact logistics corridor that once rushed reinforcements to defend Hadrian's Wall or resupply the Persian front. The genius of the Via Diagonalis lay in its ruthless pragmatism. Where other roads prioritized grandeur, this one embraced flexibility. Through the iron gates of the Danube, engineers built wooden causeways anchored to cliff faces, structures so sturdy medieval merchants were still using them 1,000 years later. In the Thracian plain, they mixed local volcanic ash with lime to create a self-healing roadbed that shrugged off winter frosts. Modern archaeologists near Plovdiv uncovered a stretch where the original gravel layers included crushed ceramic fragments, an ancient recycling project that turned broken amphorae into unshakable foundation material. Even the milestones told a story of efficiency. Unlike Western roads marking distances to Rome, these measured journeys to Constantinople, signaling the empire's shifting center of gravity. But the Via Diagonalis' true power was its role as a cultural blender. This was where Latin met Greek, where legionnaires traded stories with Black Sea merchants, where Eastern Christianity first seeped into Europe. Stop at a roadside cafe in modern Edirne, and you're sipping Turkish coffee in the shadow of the same bridge where Emperor Constantine once rallied his troops. The road's legacy lingers in unexpected places like Bulgaria's rose oil industry, which traces back to Roman soldiers planting Damascus rose cuttings at way stations. Even the Cyrillic alphabet owes a debt to this route, as Slavic scribes adapted Greek letters learned from merchants traveling its length. Now we turn from this continental crossroads to a road that faced an entirely different challenge, not the clash of empires, but the relentless power of water. The next stretch of our journey follows the Via Fluvia, where Roman engineers didn't just build beside a river, they bent its very flow to their will. The Via Salaria wasn't just a road, it was Rome's lifeline to survival itself, tracing the Tiber's serpentine path like a faithful companion. Named for the precious salt hauled from the Adriatic coast to the heart of the empire, this route didn't fight the river's whims, it danced with them. Today, as drivers navigate Italy's SS4 highway near Rieti, they're following the same adaptive engineering that made this road endure. Unlike Rome's famously rigid straightaways, the Via Salaria bends with the landscape. Its original gravel stretches still visible where modern asphalt peels back to reveal layers of crushed travertine and river-smoothed pebbles, a masterclass in working with nature rather than against it. What made this road remarkable wasn't just its cargo, but its clever concessions to geography. Roman engineers built retaining walls with gaps to let floodwaters pass, and elevated sections near Antrodoco show how they raised the roadbed just enough to stay dry during seasonal overflows. The real stroke of genius, using salt itself as a construction aid. Near Passo Cories, archaeologists found stretches where the road's foundation mixed crushed salt with clay, a natural anti-freeze that kept the surface firm during winter. This wasn't just a path for transporting salt, it was literally built with it. Walk the quiet stretches near Montebuono at dusk, and you'll feel the road's dual legacy beneath your feet. The original paving stones, worn concave by countless sandals and hooves, now share space with bicycle paths and olive groves. Medieval salt merchants once paid tolls at the Torre Salaria watchtower, its crumbling bricks still standing guard over the Tiber's bends. Even the river's modern course owes a debt to this road. Centuries of subtle embankments built to protect the Via Salaria inadvertently trained the Tiber into its present channel. Yet the road's greatest surprise lies in its spiritual afterlife. Near the Abbey of Farfa, pilgrims still tread a leafy section of the original route, following in the footsteps of St. Francis of Assisi, who walked this very path to Rome. The Via Salaria didn't just carry salt, it carried saints, proving that even the most practical roads can become sacred through the weight of human stories. Now we turn from this humble workhorse of empire to a road that didn't just inspire faith, it became a destination for millions. The Via Tiburtina wasn't just a road, it was a sacred highway where history and faith intertwined under the same sun that once warmed St. Paul's footsteps, built in the 3rd century BC, this route stretched from Rome's eastern gates to the healing springs of Tivoli, its stones trodden by emperors, poets, and one of Christianity's most pivotal figures. Today, as cars speed down the SS5, they're tracing the very path where Paul the Apostle reportedly journeyed after his arrest, escorted by Roman guards toward trial. What's astonishing isn't just the road's endurance, but how its layers of time remain visible. Near the modern suburb of Pont Mamelo, original basalt slabs emerge like scars beneath the asphalt, their surfaces grooved by chariot wheels that rolled past aqueducts still towering overhead monuments to an empire's thirst and a saint's resolve. Walk this route in spring and you'll witness a collision of epochs. The tomb of the Plautii, a 1st century mausoleum shaped like a wedding cake, stands shoulder to shoulder with a gas station, its frescoed ceilings now framing espresso machines instead of funeral wreaths. Further east, the sprawling ruins of Emperor Hadrian's villa sprawl beside the road, their marble floors cracked by time but still whispering of the day in 337 AD when Constantine's sons met here to divide the empire. A fateful summit that unfolded just paces from where delivery vans now idle at traffic lights. This road doesn't just connect places, it collapses time, making millennia feel like moments. Yet the Via Tiburtina's true magic lies in its duality. For ancient Romans, it led to Tivoli's sulfur baths where the sick sought cures in steaming pools. For medieval pilgrims, it became the first leg of the Via Francaigena, guiding the faithful toward Canterbury. Even the aqueducts paralleling the road like the Aqua Marcia with its 9-mile arcade served double duty as spiritual waypoints, their arches later repurposed as chapels. Modern travelers can still spot faded frescoes of the Virgin Mary painted onto Roman brickwork, a testament to how infrastructure outlives its original purpose. Now we leave this sacred thoroughfare for a road that didn't just skirt nature's obstacles, it conquered them with breathtaking audacity. Ahead lies a route so improbable, it didn't merely cross a lake, it turned water into pavement, defying logic and geography alike. The Via Claudia holds one of Roman engineering's most haunting secrets, a road that didn't just cross a lake but became the lake. Picture this, a causeway of perfect basalt blocks, deliberately submerged when Emperor Claudius ordered the draining of Lake Fucino in the 1st century AD. For centuries, the road lay hidden under 30 feet of water, its stones smoothed by currents and silt. Then, in the 1800s, engineers finally succeeded where Rome had only half succeeded. They drained the lake completely. And there it was, the Via Claudia, emerging from the mud like a ghost, its pavement grooves still sharp, its curbstones aligned as if laid yesterday. What makes this road extraordinary isn't just its preservation, but its purpose. Claudius didn't build it for grandeur, he built it for survival. Lake Fucino's frequent floods drowned farmland, so his engineers dug a 3.5-mile tunnel through Monte Salviano, diverting the water into the Liri River. The submerged causeway was part of a network connecting work camps, its stones cut wide and flat to stabilize carts hauling rubble from the tunnel. Modern divers exploring the lakebed before its drainage found tools abandoned mid-task chisels, plumb bobs, even a worker's leather sandal, preserved in the anaerobic mud like a snapshot of an interrupted workday. Walk the road today near Avezzano, and you'll tread on paradoxes. The stones are eerily unworn, protected by their watery tomb, yet the surrounding earth bears the scars of hydraulic engineering spanning 2 millennia. Claudius's tunnel, though innovative, collapsed within decades, refilling the lake until the 19th century project finished the job. Now, the causeway stands exposed in a valley of vineyards, its original function obsolete but its craftsmanship undeniable. The grooves meant for wagon wheels now guide tractor tires, and the drainage channels that once kept the road dry now irrigate modern crops. The Via Claudio's true legacy lies in its stubborn refusal to vanish. Unlike Pompeii, frozen in catastrophe, or Appian celebrated pavements, this road endured not through fame but through submersion, an accidental time capsule that challenges our assumptions about what endures. It's a reminder that Rome's genius wasn't just in building for glory, but in solving messy, practical problems, even when nature fought back. And as we leave this resurrected path, another road awaits, one that witnessed not water's embrace, but fire's fury, carrying the last footsteps of a city doomed to vanish. The Via Canolis in Croatia is more than a path to the past, it's a living bridge between empires. Stretching from the crumbling grandeur of Salona, once the capital of Roman Dalmatia, to the towering walls of Diocletian's palace in Split, this road has carried sandals, boots, and sneakers for 17 centuries. What's astonishing isn't just its survival, but its unbroken utility. The same limestone blocks that echoed with the footsteps of Roman bureaucrats fleeing Salona's sack by Slavs in the 7th century now support the weight of tourists sipping espresso in Split's bustling peristyle square. Walk its length today, and you'll notice something peculiar. The stones aren't just intact, they're polished to a mirror sheen by millennia of friction. That gleaming surface isn't an accident. Dalmatian limestone contains tiny quartz crystals that harden with wear, turning the road into a self-smoothing time capsule. Modern stonemasons studying the Via Canolis have found tool marks so precise they suggest Roman engineers cut each block at a 5-degree angle, creating an interlocking puzzle that resists shifting even in Croatia's earthquake-prone terrain. But the road's true genius lies in its hidden hydrology. Canales isn't just a name, it's a clue. Beneath the pavement runs an ancient drainage system, its channels carved to funnel rainwater from Salona's hills away from the roadbed. During heavy storms, you can still hear water rushing through these subterranean passages, a hidden symphony of engineering that's outlasted the city it once served. Yet the Via Canale's greatest trick is how it stitches together civilizations. When Diocletian built his retirement palace in Split, he connected it to Salona using this very road. Medieval Slavs later repurposed its stones for churches. Venetian merchants laid new cobbles atop the Roman foundation. Today, the road's final stretch disappears beneath Split's Riva Promenade, where cafe tables sit inches above the original pavement, proof that great roads don't just lead to history, they become part of our daily lives. Now we turn from this coastal marvel to a road that defied one of nature's most destructive forces. Ahead lies a route so audacious, it didn't just skirt a volcano. It climbed its smoldering slopes, daring the earth itself to move beneath its stones. The Via Nucerina holds one of history's most haunting snapshots, not of conquest or commerce, but of sheer desperation. On August 24, 79 AD, as Vesuvius rained fire and ash onto Pompeii, this modest road became a frenzied escape route for thousands. Today, excavated sections near the Porta Nocera reveal ghostly footprints frozen in time. A family's barefoot sprint, their steps elongated in panic, the deeper imprints of laden carts abandoned mid-flight, even the paw prints of a dog, its path veering wildly before vanishing into the ash. These aren't just archaeological curiosities, they're visceral echoes of a city's final moments, preserved with heartbreaking clarity. What makes the Via Nucerina extraordinary isn't just its tragedy, but its engineering. Unlike Pompeii's grander avenues, this road was built for utility, not prestige. Its basalt slabs were laid with tight gaps to prevent wagon wheels from catching during rapid exits, a detail that proved tragically prescient. Drainage channels flanking the road, designed for ordinary storms, became deadly traps as pumice piled up, slowing escapees who stumbled into them. Modern volcanologists studying the ash layers found something chilling. The footprints cluster most densely at bottlenecks where the road narrowed, revealing how chaos compounded the disaster. Yet the Via Nucerina's legacy isn't just about loss. Near the Villa of the Mysteries, archaeologists uncovered a different kind of imprint, a soldier's hobnailed boot prints marching toward the eruption. This was likely a rescue squad from the nearby naval base at Misenum. Their disciplined stride a stark contrast to the surrounding panic. Their path, preserved alongside civilian flight, tells a dual story, one of terror, yes, but also of courage in the face of annihilation. Now, the road's modern counterpart, the SP 260, carries a different kind of traffic: tourists cycling to vineyards grown in Vesuvius's fertile shadow. It's a quiet irony that the same route once choked with refugees now hums with life, its stones bearing witness to both catastrophe and renewal. As we leave this poignant path, our journey takes us from a road that failed to save a city to one that defiantly divided empires. The Via Domitia wasn't just a road, it was Rome's defiant stare into the wilderness, a stone ribbon stretched taut along the Danube's edge where civilization met the unknown. Built under Emperor Decius in the 3rd century AD, this frontier highway didn't just connect forts, it was the border, a physical manifestation of Rome's this far and no further. Today, as Romania's DJ 705 winds through fields of sunflowers and past crumbling watchtowers, you're tracing the exact line where legionnaires once scanned the rivers mist for raiding parties, their breath visible in the crisp Carpathian air. What's astonishing isn't just the road's endurance, but how its strategic genius still shapes the landscape. Modern satellite images reveal something uncanny. The DJ 705 path aligns perfectly with the original Roman survey lines, as if 2 millennia of history never disrupted the engineer's meticulous vision. Walk the stretches near Susedava fortress, and the Via Domitia's military precision becomes tangible. The roadbed isn't flat, it's subtly convex, a design choice that prevented rainwater from pooling while offering sentries unobstructed views. Grooves in the limestone curbstones aren't wear marks, they're deliberate slots for wooden barriers that could be dropped to seal the road during attacks. Even the distance between forts reveals calculation. Each stood exactly 15 Roman miles apart, close enough for signal fires to relay warnings down the chain. Today, these fortresses like Drobta and Poralisum aren't just ruins. They're UNESCO-listed time capsules where you can still see the soot stains from garrison cooking fires and the graffiti scratched by bored auxiliaries. But the Via Domitia's true power lies in its cultural alchemy. This wasn't just a barrier, it was a membrane. Roman traders bribed Dacian chieftains with glassware and wine, while local potters mimicked legionnaires' cookware designs. Modern Romanian villages along the route still bear traces of this exchange, cellar walls built with repurposed Roman bricks, or folk dances that oddly resemble military drills. The road didn't just mark a border, it blurred it, proving that even Rome's most fortified frontiers couldn't stop the slow seep of ideas. Now, we turn from this windswept edge of empire to our final marvel, a road so overlooked, it's been hiding in plain sight for centuries. Not a grand military highway or a sacred pilgrimage route, but a humble path that outlasted them all through sheer adaptability. The Via Tecta in Pergamon wasn't just a road, it was Rome's answer to the elements, a marvel of engineering that turned travel into a sheltered experience. Picture this, a soaring stone corridor, its vaulted arches defying gravity and weather alike, stretching nearly half a mile through one of antiquity's most sophisticated cities. While most Roman roads braved the open sky, this one offered shade in blistering summers and dry passage during winter storms. Today, as you walk its preserved sections near Bergamo's Acropolis, you're treading the same flagstones where scholars, merchants, and pilgrims once moved comfortably beneath intricately patterned brick ceilings, a luxury so rare, even wealthy senators back in Rome envied it. What made the Via Tecta extraordinary wasn't just its roof, but how that roof worked. Unlike flimsy wooden porticos, this was a true architectural feat. Interlocking terracotta tubes embedded in mortar formed the vaults, creating a lightweight yet indestructible canopy. Engineers designed the arches to funnel rainwater into hidden channels, preventing erosion while keeping the roadbed dry. The effect was almost magical, a tunnel of filtered light where dust motes danced, illuminating frescoes of mythological scenes that once adorned the walls. Modern restorers found traces of these paintings near the Asclepian medical complex, their faded blues and reds hinting at how stunning this route must have been in its prime. But the Via Tecta's genius extended beyond comfort. This was a road of precision and purpose. Its width allowed 2 carts to pass effortlessly, while niches along the walls held oil lamps for night travel, an ancient version of street lighting. The slight incline toward the center wasn't accidental. It ensured water runoff without compromising stability. Even the acoustics were engineered. Whispers carried clearly from one end to the other, a feature historians believe helped guards monitor traffic or priests direct ceremonies. Stand here at dusk when the low sun angles through the remaining arches, and you'll grasp why this road feels like a perfect finale to our journey. It encapsulates everything that made Roman engineering immortal. Problem-solving turned to artistry, practicality elevated to grandeur. The Via Tecta didn't just endure, it sheltered centuries of stories beneath its vaults. from Galen the physician hurrying to treat patients to Byzantine monks chanting processions. Its stones remind us that Rome's greatest gift wasn't just conquering distance, but mastering every challenge the world could throw at their roads, even the sky itself. Roman roads didn't just survive by accident, they were engineered like stone fortresses, layer by meticulous layer, each with a purpose as precise as a surgeon's scalpel. Start with the statumen, a foundation of fist-sized crushed stones packed so tightly they could bear the weight of 1,000 marching legions without shifting. This wasn't just rubble, it was a drainage masterstroke, letting rainwater seep through rather than pool and weaken the roadbed. Above it, the rudest layer mixed coarse gravel with sand, compacted into a flexible cushion that absorbed the shock of chariot wheels and redistributed weight like a shock absorber. Then came the nucleus, a mortar of lime and crushed pottery shards that hardened over time, turning the roadbed into something closer to concrete than dirt. And finally, the crowning glory, the summum dorsum, interlocking polygonal stones fitted together so tightly you couldn't slide a blade between them. These weren't just pavers, they were puzzle pieces, each angled slightly outward to create a camber that sent rainwater racing into gutters instead of eroding the foundation. But the real genius was in the details, those famous tight joints. They weren't just about neat craftsmanship. By leaving virtually no gaps, Roman engineers starved weeds of sunlight and soil, preventing roots from cracking the road apart, a trick modern municipalities still struggle to replicate without herbicides. And the materials weren't chosen at random. Volcanic basalt, used in roads like the Appian Way, was prized for its rough texture, giving hooves and wheels natural traction. In marshy areas, they mixed in oyster shells for their lime content, neutralizing acidic groundwater that might dissolve weaker stone. Even the sand in the rudus was sourced carefully, river sand for its smooth, rounded grains that locked together, or volcanic sand for its binding properties when mixed with lime. What's staggering is how these methods still outperform modern shortcuts. Take the Via Appia's original stretches near Rome. After 2,000 years of traffic, they're smoother than some freshly paved asphalt roads. Meanwhile, engineers today study Roman drainage techniques to combat potholes caused by freeze-thaw cycles. In Spain, restorers found roads where the mortar had strengthened over centuries, thanks to a chemical reaction between rainwater and the lime, essentially turning the road into self-healing infrastructure. It's no wonder UNESCO calls these roads the first green infrastructure, built entirely from local materials, designed to last millennia with zero maintenance, and so efficient they're inspiring modern sustainable design. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in the grooves. On roads like the Via Flaminia, you can still see the parallel ruts worn by countless wagon wheels, a testament not just to durability, but to standardization. Romans built these roads to exact widths, ensuring carts from Gaul to Syria could roll smoothly on the same axle measurements. That's the secret sauce. Rome didn't just build roads. They built a system where every layer, every material, and every curve served a purpose we're only now fully appreciating. The next time you hit a pothole, remember, the fix might not lie in futuristic tech, but in stones laid 2,000 years ago. Rome's roads weren't just feats of engineering, they were a philosophy carved in stone. Imagine an empire so confident in its future that it built highways to last millennia, not just election cycles. While modern roads crumble after decades, Roman pavements endure, whispering secrets of long-term thinking we've somehow forgotten. The real magic wasn't in the volcanic rock or mortar, but in the mindset. Build it once, build it right, and let it serve generations unborn. Take trade, for example. These roads didn't just connect cities, they created economic ecosystems. a merchant in Spain could ship olive oil to Britain with predictable speed, thanks to standardized widths and reliable surfaces. That stability bred specialization, vineyards in Gaul, pottery workshops in Italy, all thriving because goods moved like clockwork. Today's supply chain snarls might vanish if we embraced Rome's obsession with seamless connectivity. But the true genius was cultural. Roman roads were the ancient internet, transmitting ideas as fast as legions. Latin, legal systems, even architectural styles flowed along these stone arteries, blending local traditions into something new. The Via Augusta in Spain absorbed Iberian, Phoenician, and Roman influences, creating a vibrant hybrid culture still visible in Andalusia's architecture today. Modern infrastructure often divides, think highways splitting neighborhoods, but Rome's roads united, proving that what links us physically can bind us socially. Now consider resilience. When Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii, the Via Nucerina's stones survived the inferno. When medieval floods washed away villages, the Via Appia's raised foundations stayed dry. Rome built for disasters they couldn't predict, using materials that adapted rather than degraded. Contrast that with today's asphalt, melting in heat waves and crumbling under torrential rains, materials chosen for cheap speed, not enduring strength. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in maintenance or lack thereof. Roman roads demanded almost none, thanks to self-draining designs and weed-resistant joints. Meanwhile, American drivers lose billions yearly on pothole repairs, trapped in a cycle of temporary fixes. The irony, we have better tools than the Romans ever dreamed of, yet we've lost their patience for perfection. So what if we stopped asking, how cheaply can we build this, and started asking, how long should this last? Rome's legacy isn't a museum piece, it's a challenge. To build roads that carry not just cars but civilizations, to lay stones that outlive our names, the blueprints are right beneath our wheels, if we're wise enough to read them. From the sun-baked basalt of the Appian Way to the wind-scoured ruts of desert trade routes, these 39 roads are far more than ancient artifacts. They're a testament to humanity's relentless drive to connect, conquer, and endure. Every groove worn by chariot wheels, every curve engineered to outlast floods, every milestone carved with distances to vanished cities whispers the same truth. Greatness isn't built for the moment, but for the ages. The Romans didn't just lay stones, they embedded their ambition into the earth itself, creating a network so resilient that today, centuries after their empire's fall, we still rely on their blueprints. Think about that the next time you merge onto a modern highway. The gentle slope directing rainwater into gutters, that's Roman hydrology, the raised foundation preventing sinkholes. That's their layered statumen technique. Even the straightaways defying natural obstacles owe their stubbornness to legionnaires who refuse to let geography dictate progress. These roads aren't just history, they're active collaborators in our daily lives, quietly shaping everything from commute routes to global trade networks. But the real magic lies in their stories. The Via Ignatia carried crusaders and silk merchants, its stones absorbing the echoes of 1,000 languages. The Via Salaria's salt-crusted path funded empires, while the Via Claudia Nova slept beneath a lake for centuries, waiting to reveal its secrets. These roads witnessed births, deaths, conquests, and rebirths, their surfaces serving as the world's first social network, linking cultures long before the internet made it instantaneous. So here's the challenge they leave us. If roads built with bronze tools and muscle can outlast millennia, what could we achieve with today's technology and the same long-term vision? Perhaps the lesson isn't just to admire Roman genius, but to emulate it, to build not just for ourselves, but for generations we'll never meet. If this journey across time has sparked your curiosity, don't let it end here. Tap that like button if you're amazed by Rome's enduring legacy. Subscribe to join us on more adventures through history's hidden layers, and drop a comment about which road left you in awe. Until our next exploration, remember, the past isn't confined to textbooks. It's alive right beneath your tires, waiting for you to notice. Keep looking down. You never know what ancient marvels might be hiding in